First order on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any late additions, modifications? Hearing none, we'll take that as approval and go ahead on to approval of meeting minutes for the Planning Commission meeting at January 11th, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion by Brian.
Support.
We have support. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this point of the meeting, we entertain any public comments that are not posted on the agenda. So if there are any people available from the public that would like to mention something or ask, please state your name, step to the podium, and we'll afford you the microphone. Hearing none, we'll close that and we'll move on to the agenda items. First item on the agenda is a site plan review. Carl, would you please read the application for us?
Project name. Plainfield Country Club Remodel Phase Clubhouse. Applicant Plainfield Country Club, represented by Dan Hendrickson, Hendrickson Architects. Project address, 5801 Northland Drive Northeast. Permanent parcel number, 41 10 23 100 039. Size of site combined, approximately 222 acres. Zoned R1C residential. Project description and action requested of the Planning Commission to consider site plan approval for Phase 2 of the Plainfield Country Club remodel, including new clubhouse facilities and amenities.
So I take it you're Mr. Hendrickson?
Good assumption. Dan Hendrickson with Hendrickson Architecture. My offices are about a 3 wood from here, over here at Belmont Farms. We have with us Bob Christman, who's with Plainfield Country Club over there in the red burgundy sweater. Bill Hadlock with Paradigm Design, and Drew Sorensen with Wolverine Building Group. So if you have questions related to those gentlemen, they can address at the end of my presentation. It's spend about 5 or 10 minutes to give you a recap of where we're at. We got approval back in May for the pool facility. So we told you we'd come back once we got the building further developed. So that's why we're here today. We have about a 50,000 square foot, 2-story clubhouse with a 3rd floor, which is a partial 3rd floor, which is the men's locker rooms. So it's a brand new facility, tearing down everything that is there, except for the pool facility. And main parking lot is going to have 137 spaces with 70 ADA, and the pool house parking has 72, so that's additional about 30 spaces on top of what we have already. We do have a parking issue from time to time, so we're trying to remedy that. We have the pool house renovation is now, instead of a new build, we're looking to do a remodeled existing building. We are going to make it a larger pool deck area, redo the pool equipment, which is antiquated and about ready to go, and then a new pool, kid pool. So that's going to be new in the pool area. We have connected to the Township water via the West River Drive. I think you all see the new ski hill we have there. So that is done. We've also connected to this Kent County sewer that has been completed and ready for us to attach to. Also on the plan, we're going to be reducing drainage runoff by creating some swales. Bill Hadlock here who's going to talk through that if we need to. There's going to be improved parking lighting as well as improved landscape. Another part of this project is we are going to be creating a temporary facility similar to what the LPGA does down off on Roadville Road. So that will be where we stage. We'll have members come to there, park there while we're under construction. There'll be a temp facility for dining, portable kitchens. There is water service that does come to the site right now that the LPGA uses. We pump off waste, and electric is available there as well. So some of the things we want to talk about in this presentation is there's going to be a new entry monument sign. We're actually going to remove the gate that's there right now that gets used never. So we're just going to take that down. It's also something the fire department actually liked, was getting rid of that. So we're going to have a new entry monument, which we'll show you here shortly. Fire access to the building, I want to talk about that too, because it's different than what you have in the plan. We've met with the fire department and we have a different plan, so we'll go through that when we get to the site plan. We want to talk about the Roadville Road Trail as well. We know that's in the works. That's something we all want to do. We have talked to Bill Fisher several times about that, and we understand what we need to do to get that as part of this approval process. We have been working with MDOT. Again, Bill will talk about that. Drew is here to talk about construction schedule. We want to talk about that, and then construction truck act. So we realize that curb cut is problematic at times, and so we're going to do what we can to help alleviate that situation. So let's go to the consent, thank you, you're ahead of me, appreciate that. As you can see here, the entry drive, and where you see the entry drive, can I point on this or not really? Probably can't. All right, why don't I do it here? This is the entry drive off from Northland Drive here. We have a further developed plan we'll show you here at the next, I think it's the next slide. We come in, the road is basically in the same spot it is now. This is added parking here. This is the pool complex right now. This building is there now, except that's a little addition we're gonna add to it. And this deck space has all been increased. Parking is very similar to what we have right now. We've actually added a few spaces. But it's similar to what we have right now. The main road to the clubhouse comes in here and then terminates here. So this is a brand new facility. Right now, the building sits right about here, and there's another building here. Those are both coming down. So, fire lane, in the plans you have, we show a fire lane coming up the cart path area to the back of the building. We've met with fire, and we don't think that is necessary. It's problematic right now, just there's a steep grade up the first tee box. So what we're looking to do is a couple wall hydrants here and here. Fire trucks are gonna be able to come to this point, back up, and be able to stop right here. So we've been able to get the 150-foot hose lay connection to work, and so we've got the blessing of the fire department to do it that way, instead of having a fire lane around the back of the building. So let's go to the next one, and maybe, Billy, you wanna talk about the progress you made on?
Sure. Yeah, we're currently working through MDOT right now to get the new driveway and then the improvements on Northland Drive. And what that entails is basically kind of putting an MDOT approved driveway on there, kind of straightening it. It comes in a little at an angle right now. We want to come in 90 degrees, so that's what we're doing with the new driveway. We also are adding a right turn lane here, 250-foot stacking on there, so we can get a lot of cars off the road to turn in. A 225-foot taper going into the site as well, and then we're adding a little, as you may know right now, you kind of come out and there's just a radius to get on. We're adding a 50-foot taper to make it a little easier to make that right turn onto the Northland Drive. As I mentioned, we are working through with MDOT right now. They've got some comments. We've been going back and forth, so I think we're getting pretty close with that.
And I might add that construction traffic, we're gonna insist that any traffic goes right out, right in. Left turn in and left turn out are a problem for a car, let alone a truck that's servicing that. So that's gonna be one of our policies that we're gonna have on site. Okay, let's go to the next slide. No, back one, yeah, there we go. This is the monument sign that's gonna be just the right as you come in. So a little more contemporary, a little more in tune with the architecture of the building. I'll show you the architecture towards the end of this presentation. So this will be actually not backlit letters, but the letters will actually stand out and glow behind a backlight element. So pretty contemporary. This is the temporary facility, and again, this is very similar to what the LPGA does. Actually, very similar. Cart storage is over here for golf carts. This will be pro shop facilities, bag storage, offices, pro shop, all importable facilities. This is going to be, I think we're looking at gravel right here now. And again, we can get 120 spaces there. And then this will be the members area temporarily. This would be restrooms and a portable tavern, if you want to call it that. Kitchen, tent facility, and then that's storage. L and J are storage facilities. Architecture, this is the parking lot side of the building. What we're looking to do is cue off some of the heritage of Plainfield Country Club, which is the shape, the traditional shapes of the building. It's been there since I want to say 1910, something like that. It was actually an auto club when it was first built, 1910. So people from Grand Rapids actually used to drive up to Country Club as a club. It didn't last forever. In fact, I only think it lasted about 8 years, but so it has that traditional look, but we're actually going to make it a little more contemporary with the architecture. So that's the parking lot side. Next is it's okay. So this is the rear of the building. We've got a very large covered patio area overlooking the down 18th fairway. This is the existing practice green. We did a remodel a couple years ago, well, a year and a half ago, of the golf course. This is a brand new practice facility. Pro shop, locker rooms, dining area, and then banquet areas off to the south that overlooks the hill, down the hill. And then this is the pool facility. Again, this is the existing structure here. That'll be a new addition. This is all brand new decking. This road exists today, gets refigured just a little bit, and that's new parking there. So that's our presentation, and we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Here, Elizabeth, who is, Elizabeth, you're the man.
Me. So that was a great overview of the project. Hit all the key points that I really wanted to touch on. The only thing that maybe needs a little more explanation is the process for those temporary facilities. That is an administrative review. So we will be looking at the placement of all of that and making sure that they get their permits with the road commission, with the health department, to make sure that all of that functions appropriately. So there will be an additional review for those temporary facilities. And yeah, the applicant noted that they would be working with the township to provide that trail, either a development agreement or installation of the trail, just depending on how timing works out with that. So overall, it's a great looking project, and we're looking forward to seeing it done.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Peter, anything to add? Thank you. Planning Commission member, Brian, would you have any questions?
Timeline, how long do you see this, I guess the full-time start, finish?
Sure. Okay, I can probably jump in. So, April this year, we'd like to start demolition of the existing golf building. The LPGA is in late June, so we don't want to interrupt that completely. There will be some, this year will be a little challenging, but, so then tearing down the golf building, which is the one that's furthest north, it's actually newer buildings. And then tearing down the existing facility right after the LPGA, literally minutes after they leave. And then completion would be a week before they come back the following year, or Bob would like a month, but we'll see how that goes. At least a week, if not a month. So let's talk about June 1, 2023. Is ready to go. We're on the doorstep of getting that happening.
Any, I guess, traffic on Rogue River, now that they're using that as their main entrance and exit for the summer? Do we see any issues there?
Yeah, I mean, we do foresee needing to look at that very closely during administrative review, and we'll make sure that the road commission is comfortable with those curb cuts shown, and we will need to do an extensive review on the traffic implications for that.
I guess, why the change in the pool? I mean, okay.
We're all running into that situation right now. In fact, this project has a lot of cost factors too that we're working through. It's a daily battle that we're doing. And so it's really basically making sure that we can get the clubhouse done and sort of what's left over, we do the pool, rather than the other way around. We have the pool first and clubhouse. So we switched our priorities.
I think that's all the questions I have right now.
Thank you. Jack, would you have anything to request?
Well, I was going to ask timetable too. I'm glad you mentioned that. So let's look at the LPGA this coming year. Will there be any problems with the execution, the operation of the whole LPGA since you'll be starting to demolish?
You know, I don't see that. We're gonna, in our plan, we were taking the golf building down. That's, we got the pro shop, it's got the locker rooms. They don't really use their locker rooms anymore. It's the pro shop, can be in a tent outdoors. We were going to get that demoed and then fence that off and get that looking as pretty as we can between April and June. So we don't see that any more than the usual. It's a challenge, obviously. There's a lot of people come to it and there's a lot of notice of it. So we feel pretty comfortable with our plan.
I live in Blythefield Acres, and I would greatly welcome a trail from the outlet from Blythefield Avenue to the entrance to the golf course, because we walk it every year, and you know the traffic problems. So that would be good. I have nothing else.
Thank you, Jack. Carl?
Most of my stuff's been answered. Peter, what do we have to do with the trail? Is that part of one of the conditions, or is that left up to you guys at this point?
It is a condition. We did add that in there. It is a bit of a moving target because we want to consolidate our efforts with the applicant And right now, our assets are being put into extending Jericho Trail. That's gonna be an expensive endeavor, and then we'll have to rebuild our base. And so I think there's money to be saved by working with the applicant to, time the project appropriately, because there are some stretches in there that are privately held. And then there's also, getting across the bridge and determining how far we want to go. So we have worked with the applicant to do some preliminary site studying to see if we need easements and that kind of thing. But I think in the long term, we're looking at a development agreement so they can get this started, recoup some funds over time, and we can hopefully get started in the next.
Yeah, because they own a lot of property basically from Northland to the Rogue River.
Yes. And this is a extraordinary circumstance. I think there's a couple other instances where we might run into it, Scott Lake, for example, and that, and we're going to work with the applicant to come up with a way to solve the immediate concerns.
Question is, and Elizabeth, staff review, on the plan for the temporary facilities, the trash is way down at the end. I guess I have a concern with traffic coming in and out and the trash way down at the other end. Just a comment that somewhere along the line that ought to be looked at.
Okay, yeah, we'll make note of that.
All I have.
Thank you. My questions, comments have been addressed by the previous questions asked. And so we, as a planning commission, are being asked for site plan approval for the improvements at the country club. Now, we did have some conditions that run with this, and we mentioned those. We've got the Department of Transportation for the access. Community development is addressing the timing and trail layout. We understand that Community Development Department is dealing with the temporary facilities, and the township has stormwater management issues to observe. And the applicant is being requested to enclose and gate the dumpster in accordance with the zoning ordinance. And we also have the landscape plan, which will be created, where the applicant shall provide a landscape plan for approval prior to receiving a building permit. Jack?
Question, the suggested motion has a construction of a new XXX square foot clubhouse. Do you want to fill that number in?
Sorry, yeah, you can do that. It should be at the beginning of the staff memo. Roughly 50,000 square feet.
Yeah, just under 50,000. All set?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the improvements at Plainfield Country Club, including the renovation and addition to the existing pool house facilities and the construction of an approximately new 50,000 square foot clubhouse facility at 5801 Northland Drive, subject to the following conditions of approval. Number one, the applicant shall receive MDOT approval for the Northland Drive access improvements prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number two, the applicant shall coordinate with the Community Development Department on the timing, layout, and construction of the required trail segment along Rogue River Road and sidewalk obligations. Number three, the applicant shall submit stormwater management plans for review and approval, permitting by the township engineer. Number four, the applicant shall enclose and gate the dumpster in accordance with the zoning ordinance. And number five, the applicant shall provide a revised landscaping plan prior to submittal of a building permit.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have support. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Just one quick question. Do you foresee any delays with MDOT or anything? I mean, April is an aggressive timeline to start. Do you?
Right now, we don't.
Okay,
I
okay,
think the first thing's the demo permit to get that.
okay,
Building permit's needed until
okay.
July.
But you don't see MDOT, okay. I hope not.
We're working with them and we can make.
Good. Okay.
Yep. We should be good. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a minor PUD amendment for the West Michigan Sports Complex sign. Carl, would you read the application, please?
Project name, West Michigan Sports Complex, minor PUD amendment sign. Mike Gusweiler, West Michigan Sports Commission President. Project address, 3300 10 Mile Road Northeast. Permanent parcel number, 4110-02-100-013. Size of site, approximately 80 acres. Zoning, PUD, planned unit development. Project description and action requested of the Planning Commission to consider a minor amendment to the existing PUD to permit an additional banner sign at the Myers Sports Complex.
Very sorry. I guess that was a test, I failed it.
No. Thank you very much. Let's turn the reins of this meeting over to the appropriate person. Marie Jacobs has now arrived. It is 6:26. Carl has just read the application for item 5B, the West Michigan Sports Complex PUD amendment for the sign. Would the applicant like to speak to the request?
Well, I'm a stand-in today.
Hey,
Mike,
Elizabeth, would you step to the microphone and tell us your name and what you
Yeah,
wish to
state
do?
your name.
can I sit and state my name and do?
Yes.
So Mike actually volunteers with a group, Cannonsburg Challenged Ski Association, and I guess this is one of their scheduled nights. So I said it's a pretty minor ask, so I can just kind of present what they're looking to do, and if you have questions, I can certainly take them back to the applicant. But West Michigan Sports Complex originally was sponsored by Art Van, that has now switched over to Meyer. So they're looking to do some updates to their sign package, which is a PUD amendment that requires Planning Commission approval. So all of the signs that they're changing out, kind of one for one, those are fine. That's an administrative approval. But they're looking to add this banner sign on the back of one of the batter's boxes facing 10 Mile. And because it's an additional sign, it needs to come to you for approval. Overall, staff is supportive of this sign request. I think it's a lot art and also sign, so I think it'll look pretty nice on 10 Mile. This is kind of the view of 10 Mile. That's the batter's box that they're looking to dress up a little bit. It's quite a ways off of 10 Mile. Shouldn't really cause any sort of issues or sight issues or distraction issues for drivers. So that's kind of the long and short of it. If you have questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do so, or you're welcome to postpone and we can get the applicant here to answer any questions.
How much signage is allowed there today?
In the whole,
Well, in particular, this sign here. I mean, as you said, everything else is one for one, so they're asking for a much larger sign.
yeah, this is a brand new sign ask. There was no sign approved here originally. It's just the blank kind of green that,
But yeah, to clarify, there's already, that is the size, what's already there, the green,
correct.
correct. So they're not
Yep.
changing the size of what's there.
The inside, though.
Well, but it's the same size, it's just now gonna have a logo on it rather than
Right,
plain
yep,
green.
yep.
Okay. Sorry, Carl, I didn't mean to.
No,
interrupt.
that's
I just
okay.
No, thank you, yep.
I guess my biggest question is, I take this to probably be a cloth-type sign.
Yeah, yep, a more banner-like material, I would assume.
If in the future it rips, tears, gets old, gets depleted, if this is approved, that's fine, but I don't want Meyer coming in and putting advertisement there, like shop at Meyer's or this sort of stuff. A Meyer Sports Complex showing what they have is fine. That's what should continue in the future if anything happens to this sign. I'm just a little apprehensive about, changing this out in 5 years or 10 years when it gets tattered and they end up putting advertisement on it for Myers and for other things. So, that's my comment.
Okay. Jack?
I wonder if you would want to add that as a condition, Carl. content.
That
I-
could, we could do that.
I do have a condition there that clarifies that this specific sign is approved, or, yeah,
As
that's,
proposed,
as proposed.
does that mean content?
Yeah, yep, it would refer to this specific sign design, because I was worried about that as well.
Okay, that's all I have.
Brian?
Yeah, I think, I had the same concern, is if we approve this, can they change it? If they cannot, or would need to come back to change it to something else, yeah, we don't want it as a billboard for something, so that was my big concern. Other than that, yeah, they're not really adding to the field, it's already there, it's just blank now, so that actually makes more sense. I'm glad you had that picture, because that clears it up a little bit. But
I think that technically this would qualify as a billboard because the Meyer logo is on it. And it lies on a federal highway or a federally funded non-NHS highway. So it would require a billboard permit. And so that kind of takes it out of the purview of the township and puts it into the purview of billboards. And so whether we say or not, yeah, this is okay for us now, it gets taken away from us going forward.
Okay, I will have to look into that. And, yep. I'll pass that along to the applicant, that they'll need to get an additional approval.
So are you saying then, Kerwin, that there'd be another need for a billboard permit? Because I think we're out of them.
That's
That's what I understand.
That's my understanding of the Highway Advertising Act,
Okay.
that this 10-mile road between 131 and Old 131 is under the Federal Highway Advertising Act because of its, Highway Advertising Act because of its funding system. So it would require a billboard permit.
So I would say, just based on this particular interesting kink, we should probably have the applicant here after he's had a chance to review that. And that's just my thought. I'm not making a motion at this time. I'm just putting it out there for discussion.
That's true, then maybe we should just, postpone this until we get a definitive answer. I mean, if the state highway comes back and says, nope, you can't have it, it's dead in the water.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to see them waste time and money building it if it is not, if they're gonna have to take it down anyways.
If you're so inclined, you could approve the PUD amendment portion conditioned upon them getting a permit with the appropriate folks, or you can certainly postpone.
I'm more comfortable with adjourning it because it gives the applicant a chance to, check his rules and regulations too. So that's my thought.
I'm of the same opinion.
Okay. All right, I'll take a motion then for adjournment. Huh? Okay.
I make a motion that we postpone this issue until the next meeting of February 22nd.
Support.
Thank you, Carl. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll see him back in February then. Next is a minor PUD amendment with AJ's Family Fun Center for a sign, 4400 Ballpark Drive Northeast. And Carl, would you read that application, please?
Project name, AJ's Family Fun Center, minor PUD amendment sign. Applicant, Tom Bennett, AJ's Family Fun Center. Project address, 4400 Ballpark Drive Northeast. Permanent parcel number, 4110-31-205-009. Size of site, approximately 7.98 acres. Zoning, PUD, planned unit development. Project description and action requested of the Planning Commission to consider a minor amendment to the existing PUD to permit additional sign square footage at AJ's Family Fun Center.
The applicant in the audience, would you come on up, please, and introduce yourself and tell us about your project?
Good evening, my name is Tom Bennett, and I'm the general manager of AJ's Family Fun Center. I'm here representing the Van Boxel family and the owners of the property discussed years. It's been one of my goals when I first started. With this goal and this position is to improve the image of the park. First, I thought it was a sign. It's an old existing sign that's been there for a long time and not in the best visibility viewpoint as far as how it looks. So this particular sign is just updated, professional systems.
Okay.
It's much greater usage. The current one does not work. It needs to be replaced anyways. The bottom portion of it. Top portion is not in the greatest shape either. The backside doesn't work. It's two-sided. It's got an outdated logo on it.
Was that the same sign that you had on 28th Street?
I was not with the organization on that.
I just dated myself.
I've been in the area, been in a long time for all my little son.
Okay. Who worked with, on this part? Okay, Elizabeth?
That's me. Yeah, this is a very simple PUD amendment. Increasing the size of a sign along with adding additional signage does require this to come before you with the way that our PUD ordinance is written. But staff doesn't see any concerns with this request. It's comparable to what a commercial operation would be permitted by right for their operations. So we are recommending approval.
Thank you. Brian, do you have any questions or comments?
And I'm not sure who could answer this, but do we see a large change in intensity of the light, of the sign, from what was when it was fully working to what you're proposing? Do we see this to be is that a fair question, I guess?
It is, yeah. We do have very strict standards for digital signs in terms of how bright they can be, how often they can change copy. So this sign will have to comply with those regulations, and we can do enforcement on them if they're doing crazy light shows with their signs.
And just, I guess, the orientation, will it face north-south?
The same angle it is.
Okay, so the orientation will be the same. Okay, I think that was the only questions I had.
Thank you, Kerwin.
Question for the township, are we going to proactively investigate these digital signs that are proliferating, or are we just going to respond on a complaint basis, much the way we do with outdoor storage of recreational vehicles?
I mean, if we're out inspecting, I do site inspections now. Since we've made the transition to Cascade for building services, I'm out more frequently. So certainly if I see something, I can do something about it. I don't.
It's kind of a loaded question because it's dark when these signs are in place, and lighting and copy changes are a real problem for me personally because of my old and aging eyes. On the way here, I saw one over on the Racket Club, Coit 44 connector. It was way too bright. So now we have to go complain because the instrumentation for the signs is not automatically dimming down. It's something that there's almost too much availability to make changes with. And so my aversion to is not directed to you. It's that if we're going to do these things, we're going to have the belts and suspenders in place so that they operate foolproofly, so fools like me don't have to complain to get the things taken care of. That's my comment.
Carl?
In the staff comments, it says, based on similar areas, they're allowed 118 square feet, and they're asking for 115? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, yep, that's correct.
Okay, so they're going from 80 to 115, and they're allowed 118.
It's a PUD, so they can ask for whatever they want, but I thought that 118 number was a good comparison because that's what a commercial operation would be permitted by right, so.
Okay. That's all I had.
Jack?
Would the location of the sign change? Okay, be the same. That's all I have. Thanks.
There are no conditions. Do we want any conditions, Brian, with your lighting?
No, as long as, I mean, again, they're gonna have to abide by what regulations are already there. And, you know, and I understand Kerwin's thing is, yeah, is it a proactive or reactive type enforcement of these restrictions. But
I'll expand on that real quick. So we have a regulatory ordinance and a portion of our zoning ordinance that covers displays and billboards, as, you know, for the course. It is a complaint-based process. That said, I know Sue, our enforcement officer, spent a lot of time over the years. Walgreens was one of the worst ones over, I shouldn't single them out, but they had problems with it. Most signs can be readily controlled by a digital controller within the building, so it's usually a matter of re-educating. We'll leave it at that. But there are some challenging folks out there who like to push it, and yes, we do have to kind of keep an eye on them from time to time, and we do that as staff. So just to kind of give you a base outline on how we,
what is the penalty for people non-compliant?
harsh language. Just kidding. Ultimately, yes, we do send them a letter. If they do not follow through with that letter, then Sue will issue them a citation as $100 first charge. We have done a lot of changes in recent years in how we administer enforcement, so we can ump those costs quite a bit, where in the past it was a $100 fine and some people would be, oh, whoop-de-doo. So the worst case kind of scenario is you get a court order for them to turn it off, but I don't see that happening very often, but that's the basis of it. Is that?
Fines incrementally increased for repeat offenders?
I believe it does. I hesitated on that because I couldn't remember for sure. It does? Yep.
Oh, hi, Jack. Yes, sorry.
Based on your design, the actual size of the sign is 110.25. Are you adding the additional 4 square feet just in case your measurements are off?
No, it's symmetrical, the signs are symmetrical, so they're both the same size.
So it looks like 10.5 by 10.5, which is less than 115 if you want to nitpick. So it's okay.
All set. Anyone else? Just pursuant to zoning ordinances, the light will be maintained. The brightness will be in accordance with ordinances. And don't we have a master plan in lighting too? That has a candle power limit?
The site itself has a photometric plan. Digital signs are usually handled a little bit differently. But there are ordinances that do cover that. So if you want to include that in the motion.
I would say just pursuant to township ordinances. Anybody disagree with that? No? Okay. All right. I'll take a motion.
I move that the Planning Commission grant a minor amendment to the AJ Family Fun Center PUD at 4400 Ballpark Drive Northeast to permit a freestanding identification pole sign, 115 square feet in sign, pursuant that it's operated within the township's ordinances.
Right.
Support. Was that you, Jack? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, great, thanks. Just, we're watching you. Next, we have PUD amendment and soil removal permit. This is a public hearing, and it's regarding Plainfield gravel and sand pit at 4640 and 4672 Coit Avenue Northeast. Carl, would you read that, please?
Project name, Plainfield Gravel and Sand Pit. Applicant, Mr. Michael Rushi, Rushi Trucking. Project address, 4640 and 4672 Coit Avenue Northeast. Permanent parcel numbers, 41, 10, 29, 400, 019, and 41, 10, 29, 400, 005. Size of site, approximately 85 acres. Action requested of the Planning Commission and project description. The applicant is requesting a favorable recommendation to the Township Board to amend the Plainfield Gravel and Sand Pit Planned Unit Development PUD, formerly the Coit Investors PUD, and the soil removal permit to extend mining operations from July 1, 2023 to July 1, 2042.
Thank you. Is the applicant in the audience? You want to give us a rundown on your request?
My name is Matt engineer. So a little bit of back history, it's in the memo, but Mike purchased this pit in December of 2019. And so since then, he's been operating it. It's in quite a mess out there. As you can see from this slide, there's a lot of stockpiles all over the place. And part of that's due to how the previous individual ran the pit and what they were using the stone for and all of that. So Mike's gone in there and right now he's kind of attacking those piles and that's what he's processing and selling. And then he's on the west side of the property, he's addressing that bank. He's putting dirt in there, getting the slopes right, working on getting some topsoil vegetation there, taking care of that. He's got about 25% of that addressed already. We put some photos in. Elizabeth has those too. If you want to see those, you can see where there's some areas where he hasn't got to yet, and then there's areas that he has, and it's quite a remarkable difference. And looking at this, we did a couple of borings out there. He's looked at what the material is above grade, and we're estimating there's over 2 million cubic yards still more material that can be mined. And currently, sales are around 100 to 120, 130,000 yards a year, and so our estimate is that this pit could continue to be worked for another 20 years. And so hence the timeline request. Obviously, if we get down in some areas and we encounter clay, then we wouldn't keep going in those areas and we pull back. We do have a plan here that shows roads and sanitary sewer and how that would get extended to the property to the south. We did add, a small pond on here as well. But again, that's just more what could happen, and that rough grading matches with the roughly 2.2 million acres of material that we have. So that's kind of where we're at right now and where the request is. It's an ongoing pit and it's left in a mess, and he is working through that. We've got the material. It makes sense to go ahead and sell that material prior to putting residential homes on.
Okay. Before I open it up to public hearing, who worked on the project with Mr. Ball?
I did. Well, Matt did a pretty good job of the overview on that, so I won't touch on that. It's just basically the applicant is coming back for mineral extraction. I will tell you from our background and inspection of this site is in rough shape. I feel we were given somewhat inaccurate information when we looked at this 2 or 3 years ago about the condition and certainly about the materials based upon the preliminary data from Matt Cole, and you'll see that in the report. It does appear that there's additional material of value on this site. Staff would like to explore that a little bit more with the applicant, and that's why we are recommending postponing this particular item till the March meeting, I believe. That said, there's some other things that need to be buttoned up too with this, and they're related to how the site contours or works with the adjacent site to the south in a master planning exercise. These are some final grades. Those things I think are all pretty manageable, but they are things that we probably do need to discuss. And then lastly, because this is a complicated project with a lot of moving issues, a lot of items in here, we would like the additional time to help prepare a motion based on whatever we discover at this particular meeting tonight. In regards to, and I want to go back to the 2019 approval, since that time, we had concerns with this project at the time. I think Carl may have voiced those at that point in time too. What we have done staff-wise is now we use Pride and Newhoff on a kind of retainer, and we've been doing a yearly inspection. In 2020, Mike Rusci contacted us to introduce himself. We've been out on the site. He's been helpful with us doing that. I do think the township staff has some concerns about the amount of time that's being asked, especially since this development has been in process for a period of time. And as a result, we did contact our township attorney to see where we are in terms of position on this and very serious consequences, which you hear a lot about. Our township attorney is confident that we have a good case in this. But there are a lot of things to balance on this site. There are a lot of materials on there, and there's the fact that this site does need a significant amount of restoration. Kevin gave a ballpark estimate, which is include Kevin Gritters from Pride of New F. That is in the tail end of the staff report. Essentially, his thought is 2 to 3 years to even get this site into a usable, functional state for future development. That is everything in a kind of a nutshell. So eager to hear what your thoughts are, input, what direction you want staff to go on this in the future. So that's all I have for the moment. If you have any other questions, please let me know.
Well, like I said, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open it up to the public at this time. If you have any comments that you want us to hear and consider, please come up to the podium, give us your name and address, and make your statements. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Oh, come on up. You gotta be, I'm pretty quick. You gotta be quicker. Can you get closer to the microphone there?
Okay, my name's Alan Dean from 5080 Coit. I'm not against this project, but I would like it, instead of extended for 20 years, extended for 10 years at a time. Oh, it helps to turn it on.
It'd be your responsibility, Al.
Should have been on.
Sorry.
Should have been on, yeah.
Okay, did you hear that instead of extending the permit for 20 years, I'd prefer 10 years? I'd rather have it revisited a little shorter period of time. Also, I believe your notes said that it opens at 7 a.m., but they frequently get permission to open at 6 a.m. I'm not sure why. My preference would be if they could do hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's still a 9-hour day, but it would keep the noise level down before 8 a.m. It would also keep the trucks out of the rush hour traffic before 8 a.m. And then after 5 p.m., they would also be off the roads. With the recent Dykema evacuation thing, they were running 6 to 6, and very frequently, very noisy. The roads were covered with mud. The road signs were covered with mud. Our mailbox addresses were covered with mud. I realize that ended December 31. The truck traffic is way more manageable now, but it would still be preferred if they could limit their hours and not get these exceptions to start at 6 a.m. Speed limits, obviously, that's a county thing, I believe. The county has to enforce the speed limit there, but perhaps you could get an agreement with them to enforce speed limits, because some of those trucks were in an awful hurry, and Coit also gets a lot of pedestrians, joggers, and bicyclists. There is a gentleman that rides his bicycle down there every single day. This year, I mean, all this time of year too, in the winter, I see him go by every day. Then you see him on the road, and then you see 2 double-bottom dump trucks go vroom, past each other. You wonder, where does this guy go? So if they got their extension for 10 or 20 years, would it be possible to get the county to ask for a wider shoulder on that road? And they could contribute to it or pay for it or something, if they're the ones making money off this, if they could add to the shoulder of the road. So that's all my comments. Limit the hours for noise and for rush hour traffic, enforce speed limits, and boy, we'd all love to see a shoulder on that road. Thank you very much.
Can I clarify something with you first of all? Are you telling us that you've got traffic, you've got work starting there at 6 o'clock in the morning right now?
Not since December 31st.
But you did in the past?
When the Dykema trucks were running, they were starting at 6 a.m. And my neighbor, I don't know if I don't see him here. my neighbor told me that, you know, I said, don't those trucks start at 8 before I moved in that neighborhood? And he said, no, but when they get contracts for the highway and stuff, they start at 6 a.m. So, and I did find that with the Dykema trucks, they were starting as early as 6. So, thank you.
Anyone else, comments? Okay. I'm closing that portion of the meeting, the public hearing. I'm going to turn it over to the commissioners. Kerwin, you got any questions, comments?
It seems to be a pretty complicated issue with a long time elapsing before the anticipated finish line. That could be very easily problematic. We understand the rights that are afforded property owners for mining gravel as it lays, but we keep coming to this issue over and over again where there's inadequate progress being made to mine the operation or inadequate progress, you know, leaving the ground in a sorry state for the next guy to now field. So here we go again. I think Mr. Bean's comments about limiting the time frame and being diligent with operations of time frame and maybe trying to create a partner with our road commission allies for the transportation facility for all modes of transportation are all good things that should be considered in this particular instance. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
Peter, you know, listening to you and reading the notes, I mean, it sounds like our legal team feels we have the right to limit what the duration of this, but their legal team probably doesn't feel that way.
That is correct.
Okay, so there could be the chance for litigation of this in the end.
Certainly is always a potential. Hopefully we can come to some sort of resolution.
Probably just delay everything. That's my concern is if we look at it one way and obviously they look at it a different way, could that just ultimately delay the timeline and nothing gets done? I don't know.
Partly, that's one reason why I want to get a little better handle on the type of material, similar to what we've done with the Grand Rapids gravel site, a little bit more detail on the type of material that remains to be mined on the site.
Yeah, again, do we have the right to limit them in any way or not? You know, that's, I guess my.
We feel we do. We feel we have the authority to regulate them because this is a PUD. That right was given up back when the PUD was originally approved in 2002, and a long period of time's elapsed. The applicant is also, though, relying back on the very serious consequences test through the state. That's about as far as I want to go into the legalese on
And
that.
I get that, you know, okay. But a lot of those things were done before the current owner.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all the questions I have right now.
I have a question of you, Peter. Condition number 28, I'm referring back to the board which dealt with this in 2019. Condition 28 shall be amended regarding the applicant to provide a progress report to the Community Development Department every 6 months starting December 31, 2019, along with an annual report to the board. Has that happened?
He has been giving us the annual progress reports. He's been very good about doing that. We've had them reviewed by Brian Newhoff to verify the data. This here, we held off on giving the board report because we knew this application was coming forward, and we also had the Woodworth pit at the same time. But he is prepared to, that's not the applicant delaying, it's the staff asking him to hold off while we figured the varying issues out on the site to bring it to you for discussion.
Okay. And I would like to read condition 31, which is also in those minutes. The applicant has represented that per the phasing plan, the majority of site restoration can be completed within 3 years. In reliance on this representation, the board hereby imposes a condition or requirement that site restoration as shown on the phasing plan must be fully completed within 3 years of the date of this permit. The applicant, as well as applicant's successors, assigns, and transferees, is advised that it is unlikely that the Township Board will grant any time extension beyond the 3-year time period for restoration of the areas noted in the phasing plan. And I was on the board at that time and made that, and I still stick by that. However, I can understand that it may take some time to restore that property, but certainly that's not 20 years.
Agreed.
I have several questions. Peter, the first one's for you. How is this site related to the Woodward mining site?
All right, they share a common boundary at the south property line in this case. One thing we're trying to do is integrate grades between them, finished grades. It's a little bit challenging because the Woodworth pit was just approved with a 20-year time limit, so it's 2042, I think, that they're going to complete, and that last phase will be phase 13 on the northern end. Mike's southern end is the southeast and southwest corners are the first phases of his phase plan to complete this project. So essentially, Mike's will be done well before Dykema and Grand Rapids Gravel, I can't remember which entity it is at this case, but I think it's Dykema Excavating, before they get to their 13th phase on the end. Theoretically, a lot of what Mike has will be done and established there, and so this is going to be a moving target as we move along, how to finish those grades out. But there are some things that can be planned for, and two of them are called out by the township engineer, are the roads where they're being built. And right now, the way you have it set up is that there's gonna be a steep grade, so you're gonna have to lengthen that steep grade, and then you're gonna have to basically shelve it off each side to get slopes there, which makes a portion of the property, in my mind, undevelopable residentially. I don't think they want to market that. I don't think it's good for the township or anything. So these are things that I think we need to work out a little bit greater detail. Now, they've been working with us. We sat down several times to do that, but trying to get two competitors to you know, work on this stuff is, they have their own interests, right? So bottom line is, we gotta work together on it. There's some utility things that we discovered right towards the tail end here. I don't feel that they're opposed to doing that, but I think there's a little bit more work that needs to be done.
Thank you. Michael, this is not against you, but this operation, I've lived in Plainfield Township over 70 years. This site has been ongoing for a significant portion of that time. So for me, I'm looking at some specific conditions to add as this goes forward, and I'll just sort of go through them. One of the biggest issues that we've had, and everybody's already mentioned, is the site is in very poor, rough shape, and it needs to be, areas need to be cleaned up, restored, and put together. My comment is, I think that should take place before we start doing a lot of mining. A simple one, and I think this is in the notes, all traffic will use Coit Avenue eastbound. One of the conditions that we put on Boulder Creek is that the roadway on Coit, well, it wasn't on Coit, it was on 7 Mile, gets swept daily, so it's clean. We heard the comments back here that it's a mess. In your report, you were stating that you were gonna bring in asphalt millings and broken concrete. I'm opposed to both of those. If you need some asphalt millings to build a road, that's fine, but then that should be reported to the township, and I think in the narrative it says on a monthly basis. We don't need to bring in broken concrete and crush it and reuse it. That's just more coming in, because in your notes, you say you want to bring in 25,000 tons of material per year. That's a lot of material that comes in. and I am not in favor of that at all. Next item, I think the township should be allowed to have visits to this site unannounced to show up, make sure they're doing things appropriately. If we're taking a little over 2 million yards of gravel, sand, gravel out of this site, it's gonna lower the site, and I see that as being a detriment to the roadway coming in and a detriment to the adjoining mining operation. And just a comment for you, Peter, if you get it, I'm very familiar with soil borings. If you get copies of them, I would definitely like to see them.
Yep.
I have done hundreds of them in the past. Jack brought this up, and I'm just gonna repeat this as an example. That once a year, and I chose January 1 because hopefully the mining operation would be over by then. A report would be sent by the owner that, and I'm just giving you an example. We're mining in phase 7. We're doing restoration in 5-6. We've restorated phase 5. Grass is not yet started. Restoration with grass in places on phases 1 through 4. Finish phase 7 in May and move to phase 8 with restoration accordingly. And here's my note. If at any time more than 4 phases are not restored, including active mining operations, the township can suspend operations until restoration of previous phases are complete. Those are just some of my comments and issues. Like I said, Michael, they're not against you. It's against what's taken place on the site in the past. So I don't want this site to continue like it was. Thank you.
I can address a little bit of that. So my understanding is the previous owner, what they were doing was really going after wash stone and wash sand. And so that's why it looks like a bomb went off out there and there's stockpiles all over, whereas Mike's making road gravel, so he can take, a blend of some clay and some stone and some sand and make that and sell that. So that's one of the reasons, because that's what I asked Mike. I said, why in the world did they have this place looking like such a mess? And so that's our understanding. And so I would agree with you in that if this was a brand new site, let's start in an orderly manner and work our way around. The problem is the whole thing is a mess right now. So we're saying, okay, well, let's start in an area and start reclaiming it and work our way around. So the idea was to work around counterclockwise, starting with the west, because we have some residences there. We need to stabilize that. So that's what Mike's done. And then as far as the tonnage and the import, there's a little bit of a mistake here with the unit. So we had mentioned that we were thinking we probably need about 15,000 yards of material, which might be, I think a yard might be close to about half a ton, for blending and reworking some concrete and stuff. And then we said on average, we were calculating that we probably need about 200,000 yards of fill material for that west bank. And I think this year he said he brought in about 50,000 yards, and that's why he's been able to reclaim about a quarter of that. And so I just wanted to kind of point out that yes, this was done in a very poor fashion in the past. We have a plan on how to work it, but to say that, okay, we can only have 4 phases open, well, the whole site's open right now. And so we need to, knock off these piles, hit these piles, get those down. Let's get these areas, like if we go back to the other slide, there's some bright green areas where they over-excavated. And you can see those down by the road, because I think they got some ponds there, but then all along the west, that's where, if we had those photos up, you could see where, it's rolling and it's bumpy and it's a mess. And then you can see the part where Mike's gone in and cleaned it, and it's nice and smooth and looks sharp. So yeah, if we pull up, let's see, I think maybe the third one.
Well, you got my comments that.
Yeah, so you can see we worked that side here, and it's looking a whole lot better than this area over there.
You understand my comments?
Yes, we need to make that site look better.
Yes.
We're totally in agreement on that.
We can make that happen, that's fine.
We want a sellable site when we're done.
Okay, thank you.
Ken Vermeulen with the Honeyman Law Firm. I just want to address 2 points. One is, I think, and I've got Mike's consent to do this, I think the idea generally of some timelines and some benchmarks that we've got to meet on a timely basis, and we don't meet those, there'd be some consequences, like you can't mine anymore until you get that benchmark met. Whether it's 4 phases or 3, perhaps what I would suggest, because I've seen this work better in other locations, is as part of your annual report, you have an annual meeting with staff and say, okay, look, here's where we're at, here's a good milestone for this year, let's agree with what makes sense for this year, get that done, and then next year decide, okay, now hey, we got more done last year than we thought we were going to, so here's a good chunk to bite off for next year. Or because it was such a wet spring, we weren't able to get that grass planted the way we thought, so we're gonna have to do that over again this year and make those annual adjustments, because this is just such a dynamic process. But I think it is perfectly legitimate to say, look, this place has been a disaster forever. You're making a lot of promises here about you're gonna be a better operator. Let's put your money where your mouth is. I think he's absolutely willing to do that. But I think keeping it on some kind of a dynamic basis where we look at it every year might make, or periodically, however often that is, whatever staff thinks they've got the time to do, but might make more sense. And I couldn't help, but I do want to address the issue of timing. And yes, I've had some discussion with the Township's council, and we do have a disagreement on this. And the fact of the matter is, you've got very good lawyers. They know this issue better than a lot of townships. That's why I'm always glad when a township has good counsel, because I don't have to explain that there are different rules for gravel pits. And the point is, I think that those different rules would apply to the issue of whether a time limit in a PUD or in a special use permit is enforceable the way it would be, certainly, against any other kind of PUD, any other kind of zoning conditions. If an applicant agrees to them or doesn't challenge them within the time frame, they're stuck with them, even if frankly they were unconstitutional. And there's case law on that, absolutely. I just don't think that applies in the mining context because of the way the statute's written, because the way the courts have always interpreted that mines are just different because you can only mine where Mother Nature put it. We don't want to waste natural resources. So I think a court would come out differently on that. The point is, this issue has not been litigated. So Cliff's giving you his, or Jeff is giving you their best guess as to how a court would come out. I think a court would come out differently. None of us want to litigate the issue. If 20 years is too long a time frame, let's talk about a shorter time frame, so long as we can come back if there's still material. And that to me is the critical issue. If
You don't have to negotiate with us.
No, I understand.
You have
But-
to negotiate with them, and they
Well,
will make recommendations to us. So,
understand,
and with
understand.
our attorneys, too.
But as long as there's usable material there, we'd like to be able to continue to mine.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, my comments are, first of all, I remember when Ottawa Aggregate was the name of that site, and we took a look at that site, and the requirements were they had to clean 1/4 of a mile on each side of their entrance on the road on a weekly basis. I think that's been done twice because I take Coit daily downtown. The other requirement was to turn east only. They couldn't go the other way down to 4 Mile. They had to go out to Jupiter. That doesn't happen. There are some incredibly breathtaking speeds that the double bottom people reach in that back area on a regular basis. And I've often also seen the biker that Mr. Beans talked about, and just am amazed at how adroit he is at getting through these things. I am, the site itself is of course an eyesore, you've heard that. And I will say that I can't make a decision based on being afraid of getting sued, because anybody with the price of a filing fee can go to the courthouse and start a lawsuit. It depends on what our lawyers tell us and what they tell us if we're on firm ground and if we've got the backing, if we've got case law, statute, court rules, all of that. So I think that just based on what I've heard the commissioners up here talk about tonight is I think that we would like to take this and put it on the table and let this be further studied and inquired into with staff. Now, yeah, there's going to be some negotiation, there's going to be some mediation that's going to be going on, some give and take. And I think that you understand what our concerns are. We know what your concerns are. And I think that when we can come back to talk about it again, I think we'll have a little bit more information in depth than right now. But that's kind of the read I'm getting on the commissioners up here. And I am more than willing to let them speak for themselves. Jack, anything?
No, I appreciate your added input. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl, anything else?
Yeah, and it went over my head. This is not our first mining operation. This board and boards before us have gone through numerous ones. So we're not blind to what happens and what takes place and how they work. And I give the typical example of the one we just finished at Boulder Creek. If you go back and read that stuff, we were very, very restrictive on what they could do and how they could do it. I mean, we spent months on the traffic study, what time frames, what they gave up. Be apprised, those things are available to us. So that's all I have to say.
Kerwin, anything?
And on your summary, Marie.
Thank you. Brian?
I am good at the moment.
Okay, the only thing I did forget to mention is I'm disappointed in the start times here. Saturday at 7 a.m. is outrageous in my life. I have no problem with adding the hours on at the other end, but 7 a.m. on the weekend is not my idea of fun.
Oh,
So,
for an operation?
yeah, for operations. So I will take a motion at this time. Well, no, we're gonna make a motion here, and we're not, well, let's see what the motion is. Do I have a motion?
Well, I move that the planning commission postpone Roushey's trucking request to amend the Plainfield gravel and sand pit planned unit development soil removal permit to March 22nd, 2022 planning commission meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Carl. Does your comment have anything to do with tabling this, sir? Okay, great. Any other comments from up here?
Nope.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Please don't forget to bring Peter up to date with all of your concerns and problems, and we need them to take it into consideration when they get back to us. Okay? All right, next is. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Next is election of officers for 2022. Slate chair, vice chair, and secretary.
I'll move that we keep the existing staff as is.
Support.
Discussion?
Ryan, would you like to move up to a vice chair?
I'm open to, I guess ask the people, you're saying, Carl, you didn't ask the two people that affects. Are the two of you willing, or would you like to stay in the positions, or is it time to?
I'm more than
Try some.
willing to work in the role. I just want you to have the opportunity, should you choose to.
I would be interested, yes, but I'm also relatively new, so
We vote once a year.
Yeah.
Does that make a difference?
I know that. I flip a coin. I'm,
Up to you two.
Carl, or Kerwin, you make the call.
It's difficult to follow greatness. But
Boy, oh boy. Spread it out.
I know. So my half-hour late fee today is waived?
But, I mean,
And all the drinks.
you're wanting to stay in your, okay.
Fine with
I don't want anybody making assumptions for anybody else, I
We
guess.
should probably dock her pay, though.
I think you should fire me.
No.
Not a chance.
See?
Not
So
a
your
chance.
punishment is you have to
Not a
stay.
I was quick enough to boost you.
Okay, well, Brian, do you want to be vice chair?
Sure,
I'll support that.
okay.
Okay. Although, and that revised slate is the current chair, the current vice chair, and Brian as secretary. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Current chair, vice chair is Brian, and secretary is current secretary. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Weaseled out of that one, didn't you?
Okay.
They heard me in the first part of the meeting, so.
Want to make a public comment? We love to hear from you. I mean, we appreciate you showing up.
Just coming to use our heat, we know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll close that portion of the agenda. Staff comments?
Well, we said if time permits, so I do want to give you an out here. We got a little mini workshop on the agenda to talk about, if you are so inclined. So, not see anybody run, I'm going to start quick.
7:20.
Yeah, it's relatively early, I think, so I'm not,
I know, but we wanted to make sure we were respectful of your time with this, because we don't usually do these add-ons, but we have had a number of inquiries that we are looking for some direction from you on. The first one is, as you may recall, the Mercy Health, the old Spartan site on Northland Drive there. When it was originally approved, it was approved for 4 outlots, all medical nature. The owner of that parcel, because it hasn't been subdivided, would like to put 5 lots in there. Physically, it fits, but it is an amendment of the PUD. It's specifically called out in the PUD. There's only 4 lots there. This was a controversial project when Spartan was there, a little less when Mercy Health came in, but still, wanted to run that by you. And then I also want to point out too, for this one, he has to do site condo because they ran out of split rights. So it still has to go through the public hearing process. We just don't have to notify as large an area if you don't think this is a major amendment. From staff's perspective, I don't think it is, but I can understand if you did, so.
What does he want to put on the 5 lots?
Right now, we got a veterinarian office, so another medical office, and 3 medical offices are what they're looking at. The use won't change, it's just a number of units.
don't see it making a major impact on traffic or anything like that?
Not in particular. I mean, the problem is not necessarily theirs. I mean, the problem is just Northland Drive in and of itself. And out of respect for MDOT, I won't comment, but the bottom line is that it needs to be rebuilt, and the resources are just not there at this point in time to do that. We've seen that with a number of traffic studies in that, but I don't think the office use, let's put it this way, the office uses proposed are probably the least amount of impact on that area that we could come up with.
Peter, isn't that parking lot in MDOT right away?
The one on the left there, yeah, that is a park and ride.
That's not associated with this?
No.
Okay.
Where are these 5 lots to be located then?
You see the mouse?
Yeah.
This area, it's that open field area right there.
6120.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. In that area, okay.
Well, weren't the neighbors worried about losing their trees?
The trees are mostly along the east property line and controlled by the retirement community there, or the assisted living facility. And there, a boundary was created along that whole thing. I think it was a 50-foot buffer. And those trees that are there are preserved. I could see a small corner of this property being done that way too, but it was primarily along that eastern boundary of the retirement home.
I don't know about the others, but I see it as a minor amendment.
I would concur, yeah.
Indifferent.
I think it's minor.
All right, cool. Next one is Ravines at Inland Phase 4. This is the biggie. This is where all the improvements come into play, what we've been promised. The clubhouse, the improvements in the open space, the widening down at Cuts Hill and Rogue River, to name a few things. This is where the rubber hits the road. Now, the applicant has proposed a number of changes to the site plan And he did remind me today that there is in the staff report, we say 229 units and no reduction. They are eliminating 1 unit with that alternative plan. Staff's concern here is this was a very heated development project. They are changing the layout of this project in part to save costs on utilities, but it also is a better utility plan. It puts the sewer at a depth that's more manageable for future extension. The street layout doesn't look as nice or pretty. Staff has some reservations a little bit about the open space. We want to see it tweaked a little bit, which I haven't talked to the applicant about, but he is here in the audience. That's all manageable, but in concept, what I'm looking for, are you comfortable with a layout adjustment? You'd still get to look at it. If not, then it'll be a major amendment of the PUD, which is fine, but I want to add this on to that. If they do that, there is a piece of property, there's a piece of property to the east that's controlled by Dykema Excavating. We put a stub street into that with the intent that it may be developed. Dykema Excavating, I understand, is interested in doing so. The layout for that would be better designed if it was incorporated into this PUD. That, I've hesitated in giving direction on that, in part because then we have to go through that whole PUD amendment process and do the whole notification all over again. Whereas they could just develop it by right in the site condo or plat fashion. So the layout is not as nice, but if the applicant needs to come forward and amend the PUD anyways for the street layout, then I'm thinking that it might be a good idea for them to add this to the PUD. So there's a lot of moving targets there. I don't necessarily need looking for a direct answer on that, but if you have some thoughts on it, please let me know.
Is this close to the Riga Street where the problems were? That would be the Zyverts and Riga, that's,
It's close enough that they would be getting notice.
but as far as affecting them.
No, it wouldn't be, there'd be no significant addition to, problem for them.
All right.
Outlet.
Well, you talked about that when this was before,
Yeah.
the last time, and the grades were difficult to do so. Peter, my comment is, this, to me, is a little bit more than minor, and it probably ought to come back to us.
Okay.
Anybody else said?
Based on what you've said, Peter, I would agree that it seems to be a little more complicated.
Yep.
Probably should be looked at in a little more detail.
All right.
I agree with Carl and Brian.
Well, thank you, because I've waffled on this one for several months now, so I appreciate your input.
Waffle no more.
The next one, and this, Marie, I think Carl and Marie were on the planning commission during this point in time, but way back a few weeks ago, because we're all young, Dodge Street Hotel and Restaurant, we had a settlement agreement. It was a lawsuit. We settled with them. They built the hotel. As part of that lawsuit, there was a restaurant site. That restaurant site has lain dormant for the last, 15 to 16 years. They have they've actively marketed it, and I can tell you from experience, they have tried to market it for restaurants, and it's never really gotten anywhere. In part, it's because of access and some of what we envisioned happening there at the end of Wakefield with the 4 houses just never came to fruition. They're coming back and asking for a hotel at that site. Staff-wise, I'm not comfortable with a hotel, but I did say I would explore the issue of changing the designation from restaurant for that basic parcel to something else, or potentially just eliminating the agreement at this point and doing like light industrial zoning or something. It's been a long time. I think it's no longer nearly as controversial as it was. It would require a cooperation of the property owner of the hotel and this piece. So are you, as a planning commission, interested in seeing the designation from restaurant change on this? Well, we would probably be either light industrial or office consistent with I think the master plan had originally as commercial.
comment is, Peter, the houses to the, I guess I'll call it to the east.
Yeah.
When we did the first hotel, we had some comments from them about the hotel in their backyard. So a hotel going on that particular site, no,
Yeah.
that doesn't work at all.
And that's what we told them.
I don't even think light industrial would be preferred. An office or, like a dentist or a veterinary or something of that nature. Low impact, low traffic, not a lot of noise, that would be acceptable on that site. But even a restaurant, I think, is not appropriate there.
Based on the complaints they had about Elk Brewing over the years, I can tell you for sure they don't want another restaurant behind them, so.
And is an Elk Brewing out of business?
It is, but I mean, theoretically, something else will go in there.
And you feel that they did market this
Yeah.
aggressive, okay.
Yeah, it's been on the market quite a bit. It's just the access point
It's,
issue,
yeah.
that's what it comes down to. Let's see, what else do we have here? Sorry. I'm just checking. Just a couple of real tidbits here. We have had a number of inquiries for the MXU zoning. For example, Bud and Stanley's came in and we were able to allow them to add on, or we will be, based on the MXU ordinance, whereas in the past, they wouldn't have been able to without a number of variances.
Sorry, who came in?
Bud and Stanley's, which
Okay.
is off of
Okay.
4 Mile there. That's an example where you have a non-conforming building, which is kind of hard to manage, where this has helped them out. It still may not happen because they still have some fire issues, some fire control issues to deal with, but, at least that step of the process was a lot easier. Also had a number of the more blighted properties along Plainfield Avenue, starting to get initial inquiries about redeveloping them and doing stuff more than, some of them will not pan out for sure, but certainly more than we've had in years for those properties. So kind of nice to see that activity. We expect we'll have a project or two for you in the next 6 months or so. Yeah, I know. Well, it's a learning curve for everybody in this, so we're getting there. We're gonna meet with 1 or 2 of these guys coming up in the next couple months. Planning Commission, there's a Planning Commission vacancy, as you're well aware. Tom Coleman is in vacation until Florida till the end of January. Probably will not be till February till we get somebody posted. Cameron is working on that. We also have a vacancy in the ZBA, so we gotta do 2 spots on that. And then that's all I had. Did you wanna talk to him about the,
So the Michigan Association of Planning, they put on quite a few workshops, educational opportunities throughout the year. Community Development Department does have a separate budget for education materials for you folks and for the ZBA if you're interested in that. I will forward on the menu of choices for you, and if you'd like to participate in any of that, just let me know. We'll get you signed up.
I've been voluntold to go to the TransmoCon,
You've been voluntold. Nice.
What?
the transportation planning.
Oh,
It's virtual, so
take
I
notes
dress up.
from the waist up. So you get, you're all, your comments are all set,
We're all
staff?
set.
Okay. Planning commissioners, any comments? Jack? Carl?
I will not be here in February.
Where are we going?
Cancun.
Well, good. I hope you got a good room for us. Curran, any comments?
No, ma'am.
And Brian?
Nope, I am good.
I am too. No comments. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Glad you made it.